Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering the importance of church and this year Tuesday morning, Rise and Shine. And this morning here, I'm looking at a topic, security and safety just for its purpose. Security and safety just for its purpose. So I have some things I want to share with you here this morning. So top of the morning to you. Thanks for joining me and thanks for stopping by here as we do our live talk program. So let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you for the blessings of this day, for the blessings of your word. And I pray, Lord, that your continuous care and guidance may be in our lives, dear Lord, that we might always submit to your word. Bless us, we pray, as we study and meditate this morning for Christ's sake. Amen. So I'm looking here at this topic here, security and safety just for its purpose. It's something I've always thought about, and of this article that is about an event that happened in Congo, in Central African Republic, over there in the middle of Africa. And this is one of those areas that is wealthy, filled with a lot of natural resources, I should say. But it's always a bloodbath going on over there. And so I've always think about, the missionary work and how you would be able to do and live in some of these areas and then other things. So I wanted to have that discussion with you. It's a discussion about me per se preaching anything here, just share some ideas and some thoughts that I've been having and wondering about. So this is what I want to look at this morning here as we look at this very important topic. But before I get into it, I'll share two concepts here, and then I'm going to read two articles, one nothing to do with the topic, and then just a little note. And then the other is the topic. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go ahead and share this little thing that happened recently. It's a quick little article from Christian Post. This is something I've been wondering about, and I've talked about this in probably a private conversation. What do you do if you have a bed and breakfast and you do not believe in serving homosexual couples? What would happen? And so there was a case going on in the courts, and it finally made it to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, well, it didn't make it there. The Supreme Court rejected it. So it kind of made it to the door. So it's entitled Christian Bed and Breakfast Must Serve Same-Sex Couples. Supreme Court Lets Ruling Stand. Michael Grybowski writes this in Christian Post. The United States Supreme Court declined to hear oral arguments in a case about a Hawaiian bed and breakfast that refused on religious ground to serve a lesbian couple, allowing a ruling against the business to stand. In an order released Monday, the High Court denied a petition for a right of certiorari in the case of Sir Veli versus Aloha Bed and Breakfast, thus upholding a lower court ruling against the small business. Phyllis Young, owner of the 3-room Aloha Bed and Breakfast, will now face a penalty for a refusal in 2007 to rent a room to Diane Cervelli and Toko Buford, according to writers. In 2011, Young was sued by the lesbian couple over the 2007 incident, being represented by the pro-LGBT law firm Lambda Legal. When you open your doors of your business to the public, Hawaii law absolutely forbid you from discriminating against your customers, says Peter Wren, staff attorney at Lambda. In the 2011 statement, you can't roll up the welcome mat when you see a lesbian or gay couple, just as you can't refuse to do business with Jewish customers, African American customers, or disabled customers. Young was represented by the Alliance Defense Freedom, a conservative law firm that has won multiple cases before the Supreme Court on issues involving religious liberty. The Alliance Defense Freedom argued that because Phyllis only rent 1 to 3 rooms in her personal home, she did not fall under the Hawaii Public Accommodation Law that makes sexual orientation discrimination unlawful. And the Constitution also protects Phyllis' rights not to promote behavior her faith teaches is immoral or to associate with people who are unwilling to respect her deeply held religious beliefs, says ADF. In 2013, the court ruled against allow a bed and breakfast, and in February of last year, Hawaii Intermediate Court appeal upheld that ruling. In May 2018, allow a bed and breakfast filed an appeal with the Hawaii Supreme Court, only to have the state highest court reject the appeal request last July. End the article. And so this is something that is interesting. And you always bring to mind this whole idea here. Depends on where you live, what part of the world you live. If you're a Christian and you say this is what your stance is, whether or not even other Christians agree with your stance, then you have to often think, probably I can't go into a certain business, even if the business is a good thing. You just can't offer that business, so whatever that business is, even if it's good for the public, I think some business you just have to say, either you open the doors to everyone, or you say, I'm not going to open the doors to everyone, so I close the doors to everyone. You have to find another way to do business. And so this is the case there. So she has a decision she has to make. Well, she'd have no decisions because they're going to fine her and shut her business down, or she's going to shut the doors. Either way. So that's something that, as I say, I've thought about that. There's just some things you just can't do, even if it's good for the public, because it depends on the law of wherever you live in. Because other than that, what's her option? She has no option. That's an interesting discussion to have outside of here. So I'll move on. Just wanted to throw that out there as an important article that I saw many people discussing online, and I've thought about it before. What happened if you have a bread and breakfast and it's in your house, and you say you don't want certain activity in your house? Somebody tearing down the room, and it's two, say, men or something like that. What do you do? So that's interesting. Important for you to know that exists. So the next article I want to go into is a total, not in that direction, but it's an article about a massacre or these killings that continue to go on in places like Africa. And the question really that I want to address is this issue of security. What do you do with security in ministry and in mission and in life, in your personal life? The question of security, I want to discuss that with you here because it's been something that's always come up in my mind about what do you do in certain areas, because you go into certain areas and the issue of security is almost non-existent. So there's no security apparatus. So how would you move forward? Because you go in there, you're like basically good as dead. And then also, what do you teach the people you're going to when the issue of security comes up, especially, as I say, in areas where the state is non-functional or non-existent. So that being the case, I want to just delve into, and I'll go to the article first before I share some thoughts and Bible texts and all that with you. Go straight into the article. So this is a quick article. This is generic because this happens so often all over the world. Islamic militants kill 6 Christians in Congo. And so the article itself, that title is kind of funny because I think they were just killing a whole bunch of people. Anyhow, so Islamic militants kill 6 Christians in Congo. 470 families flee violence, report. This is written by Samuel Smith over there at Christian Post. 6 Christians, including a 9-year-old child, were reportedly killed in a recent attack in a predominantly Christian village in the Northeast Democratic Republic of Congo. Open Doors USA, a Christian persecution watchdog nonprofit active in 60 countries, reports that nearly 500 families fled from their homes when rebels force attacked the larger Christian village of Kalahu near the city of Beni in Democratic Republic of Congo, North Kivu province. The attack reportedly lasts about 4 hours and is believed to have been perpetrated by the Allied Democratic Forces, a militant group active in the North Kivu province of DRC and Uganda. Launched in the mid 1990s by Ugandan Muslim rebels forced out of Uganda, the ADF has become the conflict-stricken DRC most active and violent rebel group over the past 2 years. Sources with knowledge of the attack in Kalahu told the charity that the attackers pretended to be security agents when they arrived in the village. The imposters, reached the village center before there was any suspicion that they weren't who they said they were. By that point, the rebels began firing their weapons at the villagers. Among those killed in the attack are a 9-year-old child and at least 3 women. A nurse in the Nyankundi hospital in Beni told Open Doors by phone that the attackers then proceed towards the house of the village head. The Open Door report stated, when they shot dead the guard dogs, the gunfire sent people running. 2 villagers attempted to flee were killed. Pastor Gilbert Kanbali, who operates a civil society organization based in Benai, told Open Doors that 470 Congo families fled to Beni following the incident. Many of the families were sheltered at host families or were given refuge inside a school in the Beni's Bu commune. The Benai area is no stranger to violence caused by the ADF, as hundreds of civilians have been killed in the area over the past 5 years. According to an Open Doors, ADF is believed to have killed at least 700 civilians and more than 20 United Nations peacekeepers. In August 2016, ADF was blamed for carrying out what is known as the Beni massacre, where at least 64 people were hacked to death. Open Doors expect that more violence is likely to come in the future. We had heard the rebels saying they work for long in the domain of kidnapping and killing, but now they want to move to the stage of occupying territory. A local community leader told Open Doors they want to occupy the area they claim as theirs. North Kivu province is also in the midst of an 8-month Ebola outbreak. ADF forces are blamed for hampering Ebola relief effort and attacks against Ebola treatment centers, which I think I covered here before. At least one clinic was burned down. According to Eleanor Beevor from the International Institute of Strategic Studies, ADF is thought to be responsible for killing at least 249 people last year, or 2018 I should say, according to the Congo Research Group at New York University. An ADF member posted at least 35 videos on private social media channels that either mentioned or showed militant attacks, contain Quranic readings, and images of indoctrination and propaganda message between 2016 and 2017. Lastly here, the conflict has plagued Africa's second largest nation for decades. According to the Christian humanitarian organization World Vision, at least 2.1 million people in DRC were newly displaced in 2017-2016, with about 4.5 million displaced. DRC has the highest number of internally displaced people in Africa. All right, so that's the end of that article there. So those are some of the numbers. So it's not just what just happened, but DRC, as you know, the center part of Africa, is one of the most mineral rich area in Africa, but also one of the most area that is associated with so much human suffering. And one of the areas that has so many different humanitarian groups, so many different religious groups that are working there for various different reasons, for missionary, for relief, education, all that type of stuff. So over the years, I've often wondered what exactly, and I don't know to a certain degree, what exactly, what I'm going to say next, what exactly is the philosophy of those who do relief and those who do missionary work in this area on the topic of security, because I've often been thinking about this. And so I just want to throw some initial argument on a subject that I've never really seriously talked about here. And so what do you do? So here you have any area you're going to go in doing ministry or for life, that there are certain contexts or certain issues that are always have to be at the forefront. And amongst them is education, health, relief or benevolence, religion, and then you have security. In any of those, you could throw in other things, but those are basically 5 elements that make up society. And so when you have these elements, the question now is, when we normally talk about ministry or mission, we normally would say that the 4 pillars of any church organization and mission is normally education, health, benevolence, and obviously religion, spirituality, morality. So I just call that religion. You would not often talk about security, because security is something that was not the focus. As a matter of fact, when Christ was on the earth, security wasn't the responsibility of the Roman Empire. But what if you're in a situation where security is a major challenge and a major issue? And it is not so much that security is an issue because the state or no state, but it's an issue and it stops education, it stops health, it stops benevolence, it stops religion. None of those function within a vacuum. What do you do? And this has been a thought in my mind. So I'm going to read 2 sets of texts, and then I want to talk to you a little bit about that. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 3 through 12, Matthew 5, verse 3 to 12, the Bible says here, Christ says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be the children of God. Blessed are they which do persecute you. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you, and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you." So as you read it, this is what you call the blessings, right? It does not address all topics, and this topic per se, it does not really address. There's 2 instances in it that it kind of addressed the topic but doesn't. Remember, we're talking about safety and security. But here, if you read this and just read the blessing, you're blessed when you do these things. This doesn't, as I say, address the topic, but it still could lead to a conclusion that the Lord is not into security. The Lord is into his people being massacred. And that's all it is. It's just you just turn the other cheek, go the extra mile, keep taking slaps in the face. And yet this is just really talking about what it is to be a blessed person, right? Like, notice there in verse 9, it says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." You do whatever it is to make peace. Also, next it says, "You're persecuted. You're blessed for righteousness' sake," right? So blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake. So you do right and people treat you bad or abuse you, you're blessed. Notice it said, "Blessed are you when you revile," and at the end it says, "for my sake." So one of the questions with security that comes up in my thinking often is, what if your security is not because per se you're a Christian? As they say, the village was overrun. The village was predominantly Christian, but the village was not totally Christian. So the village is overrun. is security concern an issue if it's just for security purpose, right? So safety and security just for its purpose. That's my topic. Do you as a Christian believe that security should be an issue for just issue's sake? Not necessarily because you're being persecuted and all that. Because what if someone just want to rob you because they want to rob you? Are you supposed to defend yourself? Because in my mind, there's nothing in the Bible that encourages that you should just be like say for instance, rape. If somebody want to rape a female, should it just be raped for rape's sake? And the female should not get like a pepper spray or a gun or a knife, or they shouldn't kick or fight and scream just for that sake because somebody just want to rape them. Is that what Christ is promoting to his followers? In Matthew chapter 5, Matthew chapter 6, we talk about turning a cheek. So does turning a cheek apply to, say for instance, rape? If somebody rape you one day, you should make them rape you the second day, because Christ said you must go the extra mile. And that's where I say one could take, say for instance, the reading of the blessing and take it to an illogical conclusion, because then Christ is saying you shouldn't take security precaution, you shouldn't learn alternate routes, you shouldn't just protect yourself for protecting sake. And I really don't believe that the Bible is teaching that. I haven't seen it or being convinced. And I never really hear a preacher preach and say that that's what the Bible is saying. Turn the other cheek. What if I don't need to turn the other cheek? What if I don't have to turn the other cheek? Do I turn the other cheek? That's where the question is. Does the Bible promote, which I don't believe, because I think one could take an illogical conclusion with security and safety and come to this conclusion that the Bible promotes that basically you should leave your door open. You shouldn't put up security cameras. You shouldn't put up a gate. You shouldn't protect your belongings. Because Christ says, blessed are you when you're persecuted. But notice he keeps saying, for my sake. Because what if happened is just like, okay, here's a question. What if somebody wanted to lynch you because you're black? They don't care if you're a Christian or not. They just want to lynch you. Should you protect yourself? If a bunch of men pull up in front of your house and they have white sheets, if you're living 30 years ago and you have a gun, should you mow them down? Or should you say, well, this falls under the rubrics or the subheading being persecuted for righteousness' sake? Is skin color righteousness? So that's been first point. So just want to throw that out there. Think about it. If you have an answer, throw it over to me. I like to hear your answer because this is food for thought. In Psalms 23, verse 1 through 6, we have this most powerful, famous Psalms that put forward the protection that the Lord have upon us. And notice here in Psalms, I love this Psalm because it's talk about the Lord being our shepherd. Psalm of David, this is verse 1 of Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So that means nothing, right? He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restored my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemy. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now when we look at verse 4, it says, Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So we want to remember that this is a Psalm of David. This is David here, who is himself a king and a general. His name to fame or claim to fame is being a warrior in the name of Jesus. So we have these two concepts here, David and then his son, Jesus Christ. One promotes the blessing and one promotes the protection of God's people. David was responsible to even protect God's people from the Philistine. That was his thing. But here David refers to God as the one that carries the rod and the staff. Now, you know what a rod and a staff is. It is to protect the sheep and beat up the wolves, the bear, the lion, whoever comes to take the sheep. So although he says that I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, and thy rod and thy staff protect me, which is true. But also himself bare a rod, and he bare a staff. And he did not bear it in vain, as you read the story of David. So here David was responsible for the security of the Jews, Israel, but also David account the security of Israel, which is true if you study the Bible and understand faith, to God. God was their warrior. God was really their true battle axe. So what do we do with this idea of security and safety in justice general, especially as I say, where we are called to be missionaries and to go into areas that are slaughter zones, murder zones, no safety, no security. Our security is always at risk. And not because we're just a Christian, because they're just a slaughter zone. There's a zone that people get slaughtered. And should we not go in there? In other words, should we, verse 2 of Psalms, He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still water. So then I could say, unless the zone is safe and security apparatus is there, I should not go, because God would never lead me in a place that is not green water. It's not green pastures and still waters. You see the point there I'm making? Because you could take that road and say, well, unless there's security apparatus, I can't go in because I should not bear the staff or the rod, and I should not protect myself. So what's the point? See, that's one way to look at it. And I don't disagree with that way, because I just like what I read about the bed and breakfast. It's like if you decide that, look, you can't serve certain people, and they say you got to serve them, then forget about the bed and breakfast. And why that is important to me, because then I'm going to fight them, is what if you want to do a retreat, and you say you open your doors for a retreat, and all are welcome, but you say two men can't be in the same room, or two women can't be in the same room, or a vowed lesbian. And they say, no, you have to serve everybody. And they sue you. You could say, God ain't lead me down that path. I ain't gonna fight that. Nobody get held. You all can die. So what do you do with that? So anyhow, so it's and sometimes I think there are situations where they're over there and they can't provide security for me. They let them stay over there and slaughter themselves, because it becomes difficult. What do you do? So anyhow, if your security is in jeopardy, not because you're a Christian, but for some other reason, should you provide security? And this is an honest question I'm asking. I know this is not the format, because I used to do call-ins, but I don't do that anymore. So you cannot just think there, and I'll leave you to think about it. Because these are things that I'm analyzing. There's many things I'm analyzing that I don't present. But this is one of them. Because I might not have a answer that's set in stone. Now, when you think about the rod and the staff, one of the first person I think about is Abraham. Abraham is a father of the faithful. We follow Abraham. Now, Abraham was in a time, I think, and in a zone where he had other kings around him, but he himself functioned like a state. He was religion and state almost in one. And as you know, he provided for so much security, or had the ability to secure himself so much and his own property, that he was able to fight off 5 kings, or 5, if you want to call it, towns or village heads, and rescue Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham has this beautiful testimony that he rescued the Sodomites. So there, and the Bible never says this is wrong, because as I say, that was the zone he was operating in. His security was his responsibility. So if I'm teaching somebody that's in a zone, and this is where I'm leaning to. If I'm teaching somebody that's in a zone similar to that type of zone like Abraham, because this is literally what just happened in this village in Congo, or this town, that I'm leaning that I should teach the person that, like Abraham and David, since the state does not exist and they're non-functional or they're dysfunctional, that you have to provide for your own security. This is where I'm at. I'm not set in stone. You could convince me otherwise. That's how I'm like I'm on a chalk line with this. Because in my mind, people would just come and rob you for robbing's sake. And if there's no state and there's no judicial system and no court, which is what it seems like in places like Afghanistan and Congo and many places around the world in Central South America, that should be part of the philosophy, that you should be like Abraham. You should be able to protect your own, so that you don't have simpletons want to overrun you and slip in. You should have your own checkpoints. Because I found this weird when I read the article, that the village, they were able to get inside of the center of the village and almost kill the head of the village. And so I said, what's the philosophy of the head of the village? Why, if you have this type of marauding bands of hoodlums and criminals calling themselves Muslims, because that's all it is. It's just a bunch of evildoers using religion as their excuse. Why wouldn't you set up checkpoints? And since the state is non-existent, what would be the philosophy that make you not? How did they get inside, and so forth? Why would you not have your own security? Like, if you're the village head, you have a right to have your security. Like, if I'm not the village head, it's not my business, so to speak. I can only go to the village head and say, hey, we ought to have checkpoints. And if anybody with a gun coming close by, especially if it's open carry, there's no rule. But I'm saying if they're carrying it openly, they would have to show ID. If they show ID, then a gunfight going to start. There's going to have to be some dead bodies. Why would this not be? And so why would I go there? And if, say, I go in somewhere to do missionary work now, because I take both sides of the argument. And if I'm going to do missionary work and I say, okay, is there security? And they said, no. All right, does the village yet provide for security? I said, no. I would say, well, you don't need the gospel preached to you, because my Bible tells me that says the Lord lead me beside still waters. I'm not going in an area like that. You don't need the gospel. When you provide security, I'll come. And don't tell me the state 2 hours away is going to provide security after the village is already overrun. Because again, I don't see the possibility, unless I'm missing something, to do education, health, benevolence, or religion in an unsecure area. You need peace to be able to do those things. You know, look at Israel. Israel was not settled to be able to do the best time Israel had under David until there was peace. You had to have peace from the enemy. Then the temple was able to build by Solomon. You don't do those things in time of war. So it's you can't be. Think about it. Shoot while bullets is flying. The kids are in school learning. You gotta shut down the bullets, and then you can teach the kids. And one of the biggest problem I see in many of these areas, security is the major issue. There's no security. And if, to me, the state can provide security, then the village leaders, especially if they listen to the Bible, should say we're going to provide security for our people so that we can have development. I think the reason why Congo and places like that can't develop is not because of a lack of religion, because as you can tell, they have so many humanitarian groups and aid groups in places like Congo. So it can be that lack of religion, lack of benevolence, lack of health or education would be. They have an Ebola outbreak, but they can't deal with Ebola. And I've been covering this for a while now, because they can't secure the area. The humanitarian people has to be running. This makes no sense. As I say, I've not got any information to explain clearly what is going on with the security. Because to me, the biggest thing they need is not education at this point, or health. Well, if they need education and to go secure your own village. And it's not health or benevolence or religion. What they need, it seems, to my mind, is a philosophy on security. The biblical philosophical security. If you remember the story with Christ, when Peter pulled out his sword and chopped the ears of the people that came to arrest Christ, one of the security for the Pharisee. Christ says, put away your sword. He didn't say get rid of it. It does not have no value, but when there's security, you don't have to bear your sword, so to speak, because there's somebody bearing it. But if you're in an area and you're 20 miles away from the nearest neighbor, there's no security. I don't care what you tell me. If you're in New Mexico, you're 20 miles away from your nearest neighbor, or 10 miles away, there is no such thing as security. You are your own security. Ain't nobody coming to you, somebody try to overrun you. It don't make no sense. So when you're in a zone where state is weak or non-existent, to me, and especially if a person is a Christian leader, so this town they say was a predominantly Christian town. What is it the Bible is teaching them? Because they have to read they have to read Genesis through Malachi. And you read Genesis through Malachi, you get away with this idea of war is a way of life. So, and as I said, there's always these little, wordless young men who will come up with reason why they want to rob and steal people. And they should not be able to just come into a town or a village and just run right through, overrun, and feel like they're bad. They should be stopped. The wages of their sin should be death. Now, these are, so here's something that I'm fascinated with, because many of the missionary groups that go to these foreign countries to do missionary work are American foreign groups. And what you know with American religious Protestants is that they're the most avid promoters of the Second Amendment. So what I've often can't figure out is, what do they teach? And as I say, in our church, they don't teach security. So I should have said that from the get-go. It's not something you hear from an Adventist pastor, per se. So, but I find it fascinating, though, that in the pulpit, they don't teach the Second Amendment, per se. But in the society, they believe in Second Amendment. They believe in big. And I remember a few years ago, there was a guy that I used to deal with that was into like all kind of prophecy stuff. His name was Will Sutton. But he was one of the first person that I remember dealing with that was pro Second Amendment, was avid Second Amendment. If he couldn't travel with a gun, he traveled with a machete. And I'd find it fascinating. It was weird because I wasn't used to that type of idea, that you go preach the gospel with a gun or a machete. So anyhow, so the unalienable rights from God should be extended where Americans do missionary. What do you think about that? This is something I've been thinking about. If, say, an American missionary group goes and they believe that the Constitution is not rights that are given by America or by anyone but God. So God is the one who gives you these rights. And this is your right, right? Does that apply? And I'm asking you, if you go to somewhere and you as American go, you believe that wherever you go, you live by these principles, and these principles are quickly summarized in the Constitution and the amendments. The amendment to the Constitution, amendments to the Constitution. Do you go with that and you believe that, hey, look, one of your rights, you tell to the people where you go that actually God gives you this right to protect yourself. It is your right to have a gate, a wall, a chain link fence, security cameras, whatever you want. As from dogs, have a bulldozer for security. You can have a bulldozer for security. So if you can get one of those armored vehicles, get a bulldozer. You walk behind a bulldozer. Forgot to drive it with an armor plate on the top, so you can shoot from it. Whatever you want, it's your right to protect yourself. And all people has this right. You don't have to exercise the right, but it's your right. So let's look at the declaration. And then, as I say, contact me, text me today. I'll text you later, and I'll ask you what you think. So here's the Declaration of Independence, the opening line. We hold these truths to be self-evident. That means if something is self-evident, is like that. I just breathe. It's self-evident that I'm alive. So these truths are self-evident. Something you can see. You don't have to really question it. There's things that people question that is not self-evident. Evolution is not self-evident. You have to be taught it in school. You can't look out and see the sun and say that's caused from a big explosion, whatever. It's not self-evident. So we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, So not just Americans, but all men, people in Africa, South America, the Asian continent, Europe, all men are created equal, right? And that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So this is what you and I believe as Americans. We believe that these are each of these people have a right to life. But if I have a right to life, this is why now. This in this statement here is a whole boatload of philosophy. Because if I have a right to these things, and these are rights that should not be taken away because God gave me the right to live. Hence, God will give me the right to defend myself when somebody tried to sue me or tried to prosecute me or tried to falsely imprison me. I have a right to defend myself. I have a right to break out of prison if I feel like I'm wrongly imprisoned. I just need to figure out how to get out. It's not just I have a right to defend myself in the court of law. I have a right to try to escape prison. Because if I'm innocent, I must have a right to pursue happiness. And pursue means I need to get out. It's a whole lot of things that somebody would say, oh, no, you can't do that. That would be like, wait a minute, but that's my right. So I have a right for life. So again, this to me takes on security. And we're not done yet. This to me takes on the concept of security. Because I'm saying God give me the right to protect myself and to extend my life as much as possible. This brings on what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, health. Part of me believing in health is a pursuit of life. Somebody said, but eternal life is the only thing that's guaranteed to ever if we are saved. And I say, yeah, but why would God bring me alive today? He gave me life. And I need to secure that life. And liberty. Because if, again, somebody want to kidnap me, as I said earlier, somebody want to rape somebody. Do we say, Jesus says, you shouldn't have pepper spray because you must turn it a cheek. So if they come to rape me, I must just say, oh no, here you go, guys. Go on right in ahead because Jesus told me I must freely give. Is that what we're teaching? I don't believe that. I don't believe that says somebody have a right to my property. And I should not do everything I can to protect my property. Because that's nowhere to live. If somebody kidnapped me, I have a right to try to escape. I shouldn't say, well, you guys kidnapped me, so I should go the extra mile. This is not what Christ is teaching. This is ludicrous. It would not make any sense. It would contradict the whole Bible. The whole Old Testament and New Testament were thrown away. There were times when God's people, as you know, Andrew White talks about even great controversy, that they had to literally fight back the Roman authority. It was not all the time that God's people suffered themselves to be persecuted. There were times when they had a hold, so to speak, of the king or some prince, and they fought back. So do you have a right to ever fight back, or persecution is the only way? You just always roll over and make people beat you and rape you and kill you and rob you? No. And notice here the pursuit of happiness. Because this is what I'm saying though. Part of, to me, pursuit of happiness is to be able to secure a zone so you can have education, health, benevolence, and religion. Remember, today I'm doing the importance of church, because often a person will wonder, why would you do independent church? Because I do it because you cannot do certain things within the corporation. And I'm in America. I have a right to be able to serve God according to the dictates of my conscience. That because God gave it to me, and America doesn't. The religious hypocrites can't use the state to force me against my will. Now, in other countries, I would still have that right because God gives it to me. It would be more difficult. But it wouldn't mean that says I wouldn't fight for that right, literally. So here, inside of certain environment, we in an organization that want to send you some silly pastor that is preaching some Sunday church doctrine and attack you for being a legalist and all that type of stuff that I'd suffered. And most people who are righteous suffer in the church, if not all. I'd say, look, I have a right to do this. I'm out of here. I'm going to pursue my happiness. And you do what you want to do. And I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. And you can tell me all day I'm wrong. But I'm going to do what I do. So education can be pursued when bullets are flying. Health can't be pursued. See, they have an Ebola outbreak that I've covered here, and they can't settle it down because of all the violence. So as a mission, you can't do ministry in this type of environment. So what is our philosophy on security? You can't do benevolence while bullets are fine. Can't do religion while bullets are fine. Where people just like, look what happened on last weekend just passed, where this young man, but again, he's using hate for people who are not white and all that. But this evil door, because you can't even listen to these people when they talk, because the mind is desperately wicked. But he uses the hate for Muslims to go into a building and shoot up the building. But he was able to legally buy a gun. So why was there not 10 guns in that building? Why would I be Muslim in a country like any of these countries, and knowing the environment that Muslims do this type of foolishness, and Christians do this type of foolishness, and secular pagans do this foolishness? I think in that type of environment, that much people, you have to secure the place. It's just security, and the security apparatus is not going to work for you. So you just have to secure the place, because you have these people who like to go into churches and shoot a church up. And they say, they come up with an excuse, but really what it is, they just want to kill people. And they're going to find daycares and church and stuff like that. But again, you can't do religion in that type of environment, because people want to inflict bodily harm. So notice there, that's the Declaration of Independence, the beginning. Now the preamble to the Constitution I'm going to read. Notice here again, if you're an American, you believe that these rights, everything I'm reading here, is given by God. It's not something that the state gives you, or the state provides for you, so to speak. I say this real quickly. Notice in the shooting that happened in Parkland, I'm probably saying it wrong, in Florida, where the young man went into the school and shoot up the place, and the police that was outside, the school police, he did not go in to try to neutralize the young man. They took it to court, and the court ruled that he did not have a right. He does not have to have a right. He's not legally responsible to go in and stop the killing. So then who was responsible? They were responsible for their own security. Now somebody could say, but he was there for the security. But I tell you, police don't have to stop somebody from murdering you. It's not their business. Your security is your own business, between you and God. Notice here again, the preamble of the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, insecure domestic tranquility, to provide a common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. So notice, so much of why the Constitution was put together had to do with what I originally read, and then the issue of secure, welfare, security, defense, security. To me, when you read the Constitution, it is without a doubt why America spend the most money on security, more than I think the next combined 20-something countries, because it's something that is hammered in the psyche. So, and because this is important to me, because I know so much of the people go abroad to do missionary work are Protestants, and they're the brand of Protestantism that I would say is the most hardened for for security. They're the ones that argue the most for bearing arms. So I would think if they're the ones that most ardent for bearing arms, we should see that anywhere they go and they say it's a village that is primarily Christian, that technically if John, who is a big ardent supporter of always traveling with a knife, with a machete or a gun, that village should have been armed to the teeth. That's how I'm thinking. If that's the brand of Christianity, because they would say, well, we believe that these are your rights, and we're the biggest ardent supporters of gun carrying in the United States. So we're going to come to you, and when we leave, you're going to have a Bible in one hand and an M16 in the other hand. That's my thinking. I'm going to read it again for you. The people of the United States in order to form a perfect union. So they're saying we can't even form a union. We have to establish justice. We have to secure domestic tranquility. Because you can't build society without tranquility. We got to provide the common defense to promote general welfare. Because you can't have people just taking patch at the people. It's the responsibility for overwhelming response from whoever is in charge of the state. I don't care if it's the village idiot, or it is the chief that is the wisest man ever walked the face of the planet. His major responsibility is to protect the people. This is why I've said, and people wonder why I say this, that I believe if the president want to build 5 walls, 2 walls, he can build a wall. If without the racist rhetoric, because that's his job. His job to protect the people. If he believes that's how the people are going to protect, I can't knock him for that. You just have to remove the racist rhetoric and just go ahead and build it. And because that's his job. His job is to protect the welfare of the people, to promote general welfare. Notice, secure the blessings of liberty. So they're saying the blessings of liberty has to be secured. It can't be, because you're free. It's just like dealing with a human being. Sometimes people want to rush up on you and say certain things to you. You have to brush them aside. Like, you can't talk to me like that, and move them out of the way. So next time I see you, you're free to go and come. I remember the story, and this is why I say I believe that Lord has to take, Lord does take care of what he has to take care of. If you remember the story with Elisha, I think it is. Elisha, the prophet that came after Elijah. Hopefully I get it in the right sequence. But Elisha, the situation where they started to mock him, and after Elijah went up to heaven, the children started to mock him and saying, "Go up, thou baldhead." And if I remember clearly, Elijah called down the bears, or the Lord sent the bears to attack and beaten up the children. I even think he killed the children. I can't remember what exactly happened. And so the children were attacked by the bears, the female bear. It just ripped them up. And Ellen G. White commented on this. She says, this was an important act, very important act, to protect the prophet, because he had to move in and out the gate for, I think, the next 40 or 50 years. He had to move amongst the people. And they had to see him as be scared, literally fearful of him, that if they did anything to him, they would be killed. But you read it, you're like, that's a kind of violent response to children now. Because notice, every time they do articles, they talk about the children die. Well, that should be the reason why you need to tell these people they need to take care of their security. So it was children. Children were mocked. I'm like, look, we're gonna make an example. We're not gonna go off even adults. We're gonna take out the kids for you to understand. We ain't joking. And here God says, look, I'm gonna take care of him, man. He's not gonna bear no arms, but I'm gonna bear arms for him. I'm gonna make you all see him and be scared. And that's important, because people want to take pot shots at people without no respect. If you notice, a lot of the murders been going on is these young men. And, I think the more this goes on, it's more I'm looking for the day when people start to just take them out when they go into these churches. Just give them the surprise bullets for them. Because they have no respect. And all of these young men, you see them, they're rude. They're the nastiest of the people you ever deal with. They have no respect for no one. Their parents brought them up that way. And I think this is spilling over into bloodshed. Next point here, the Second Amendment now. Notice here, so I'll finish this. It says, and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. So all the talk would have been nothing. Oh, God give us rights, whatever. Without a clear understanding that the people need to be protected. And you need to have tranquility, general welfare, defense, justice, because without that, it's hard to build anything. And that's what you need it. You just need, I'd gotten tired of myself dealing with always the up and down of they changing our pastors, and the pastor come with some new principle and he caused a big ruckus and fights breaking out, and like, enough of that nonsense. Can't build without tranquility. Notice Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The rights of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. So the rights of the people to secure, this is part of the American Constitution. This is something that people argue with over to this day, and they will not change this in America unless they overturn the Constitution itself. Because you see, if you notice 1, 2, 3, I just read 3 different things. You'd have to totally change all 3 concepts in the Constitution in order to get rid of this idea of bearing arms. You'd have to change it, because if the Supreme Court has ruled multiple times that the police has no right to defend you, you gotta defend yourself. Then you tell me now how you get out of that. Because they say the Constitution say, the government is here to do that, but it's not necessarily take away your right to bear arms. Why? Because you need to defend yourself also. And I'm not big on this type of stuff at all. I'm just looking at it from a total philosophical point of view. So if I believe that 1, 2, 3, 1, this is rights given by God. 2, this is important for the general welfare of society and for the peaceful ability for a person to secure, pursue their own happiness and liberty and freedom and life. And 3, I believe that not only there should be a militia, but there should also be the rights to bear arms, and this right should not be infringed upon on the people. And I go now, and I'm in Congo, and I say to the people, I'm not only an American, but I believe in Jesus. And I say, Jesus don't only give me as an American these rights, I believe that these rights are yours, because you guys over here are not able to pursue happiness, you're not able to pursue life, and you're not able to to have liberty, because you have these young men that are running around in the jungle killing people and don't want to go establish a job for themselves. I believe that you need to embrace your right to bear arms, your right to have a militia. You can't depend upon the state. Your right to be able to now do this so that you can have schools and educate yourself. You can have health. You can have benevolence. You can have religion. And you can secure it. This is how I'm seeing it, because I don't understand these zones. You can't go. There are no-go zones, because you're not gonna God's not gonna lead you into no raging water where you're gonna drown. So how are you gonna go there? And they're not being able to secure none of these places. Why? Because you have no protection. And I think the village leaders need to embrace this type of stuff and protect their own people. Because without this, you can't do anything. As I say, you're right here now in America. What if you're under the threat of death, not because of religion, just because of whatever? Well, shouldn't you have a right to secure that? And say, I need to protect myself. Because it's one thing if somebody say, well, I'm being persecuted for righteousness. I say, I understand. It's stake time. It's time for you to be burned at the stake. Okay. But somebody say, oh, someone just want to beat me up. And I'm like, oh, so the person's a bully? You need to contact the state. The state don't want to do anything about it. Well, it's on your state, or the Supreme Court says not their responsibility per se. So it's on your situation. You're gonna have to deal with that. The state is there, but doesn't mean that says you can't have, as I say, a chain on your door. You still have to take certain precaution. The state is there, but if somebody run up to you and try to rape you, it's not wrong for you to have a pepper spray. It's not wrong for you to have a knife or something to protect yourself. The Bible doesn't say you shouldn't do that. The person's not raping you because you're Christian. They're just raping you because they want to rape you. What's wrong with that? If that's the zone you live in. But if you live in a zone and you don't have that threat, don't worry about it, per se. But if you have that threat, I think it's right to do what you have to do. And that's where I'm at. I won't scream it out loud. I'm just talking. But I'll communicate to you this today via text, and you can always email me if you have some opinion. I'm curious about this because I wonder for years, why is it that they don't teach this to the people, that they go that these are your rights. These are not American rights. The Constitution does not give me right as an American per se. Give me right as a human rights. It's your human right to protect yourself. Let us pray. Oh, Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for the blessings of your word, and I pray, dear Lord, that you may guide myself and those who have heard these things along and lead us into the paths of righteousness. And where I've gone off, you lead me back to your path in the straight and narrow. Bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again tomorrow morning live, where we could talk about natural health. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.